Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unity this morning. I just want to invite you to get into the presence of this room and leave the world outside these doors and bless yourself with this hour to connect with this greater love, this greater joy we call God, Source, Allah, Buddha, whatever word makes you feel divinely connected to this greater energy that guides and directs every aspect of our lives when we tune out the vision and the noise of the world and remember when we come into our breath and into our heartbeat, we're divinely connected to this source. And that's where all the answers to our questions are resolved and healed. So we start this service always with chanting. They say to sing is to pray twice, so we invite you to sing with us, or you can just close your eyes and bask in the affirmations that we'll be singing. Norm and I will be the call, and Larry will be the response, and you can sing with him. You can sing with us, too, if you know the words ahead of time.
Open my heart. Let only love flow through me.
Let only love flow through me.
Center my soul. Center my soul
Center my soul
upon the path of peace.
upon the path of peace.
Make of my life
Make of my life
a melody of
a
love.
melody of love.
God is in all of life.
God is in all of life.
We are
Good morning, everyone. This morning will be a little bit different. Syntysche and I have decided to do a dialogue which came about on Friday. On Friday, I was musing about the experience I had on Thursday night. The choir had met for the first time in a year and a half, and they were up here on the stage rehearsing for the memorial service we were scheduled to have at 10 a.m. on Saturday. And I just sat in the back and watched this choir that has been with us. Most of the people in that choir have been with this choir for decades. And as I looked upon them, I not only had this nostalgia, but I had this insight because I've known them for all this time. And there wasn't a single person up there that in their life they did not have some tragedy or some suffering, some terrible challenge. Every single one of them had, and not just one, but some of them had more than one, and many of world's difficult things happening in their life experience. So I was sitting there getting this insight and listening them rehearse the Lord's Prayer. And so they're opening their minds and their hearts to this divine intelligence and love that is God. And so I'm trying to put it together. How did they arrive at this place? Because I know them. I know most of them personally. And they're all very beautiful people, devoted people. People that have lived the unity truth as they've gone along. And it is that truth that they had lived that has lifted them out of the limited illusionary consciousness where you have useless, unnecessary suffering. There is suffering in the world, and every one of us knows that. And all of us have had an experience with suffering in some way or another. But there is useless, unnecessary suffering, which is about 95% of all suffering. And it's mental. It's, mulling over the limitations and difficulties and problems that have entered our lives that many people are still trying to deal with, and fearing about the future and what I'm going to do next or what's going to happen to me. All of that creates a feeling of being downtrodden and lost and isolated. But these people that have been here for decades they don't share in that very much. They may have their moments, but they don't share in that very much. And then the thought occurred to me how Buddha was raised. And Gautama Buddha, who is the avatar of the entire Buddhist movement and all the Buddhist religions that came out of it, his father was a king and had a great palace, vast wealth. And it was his desire, this king, to keep his son enjoying life as long as he could, to keep him in the joy that we have as children, where we're not really reflecting upon the limitations, the problems, the fears, the responsibility. So he wanted to keep and give his child the greatest possible upbringing. And so he set it up so that his child, the Buddha, who became the Buddha, could never leave the palace grounds. In fact, the king arranged it that only happy children and beautiful people, young people, would all be there in the palace and the palace grounds per se. But the little Buddha was not permitted to leave the palace area. And so he grew up like that, seeing all of the healthy, happy children. He was always happy playing. He saw the beautiful people there that served. The king didn't allow any decrepit people or sick people to be part of the palace area so that the Buddha would not have any vision of limitation like that. But as the Buddha got older and he realized there's so much more to the world he wanted to see, so at an early age, in his teens, he said he's going to go outside the palace grounds. And he took his horse, his white horse, and he arranged it so that one of the people that guarded him would come with him and convinced him he had to do this, he had to let him go. Beside anything his father would say. His father didn't even know about it. So this guard led the Buddha out of the palace into the villages, where he saw all kinds of people with terrible problems and disease and poverty and the decrepitude of old age. And as he saw all this, of course, it was an awakening for him that the world is suffering. And that is what inspired him to seek a way out of it, a way out of the suffering of the world. And so that's what we're going to talk about now. This is what, and it's interesting that when I was going over this and putting down a couple of notes about bringing this up on this Sunday, Syntysche came into my office and she was telling me about the talk that she wanted to give on Sunday. And well, we know that our minds are connected, but her talk was so totally, absolutely spot on, letter for letter, what I was just writing down. I said, well, maybe we'll just do a dialogue on Sunday. So, and
my title for my talk was The Magic and the Power of Surrender. And it was all about, facing the obstacles of the world and the suffering of the world and learning how to not fight up against those obstacles and learning how to surrender and let God lead us to that which is being called in any or all difficult situations. And I was actually coming back to his office because I was grappling around a situation that was going on with one of my closest friends of all my life. I grew up with a couple of girlfriends that were really close to me, and one of them passed away a few months ago. And then I heard through the grapevine this other friend that we had a falling out about 7 years ago. I still don't even know what the falling out was about. How girlfriends are. Something happened. She worked for me here, and I think you really should never employ friends because it is difficult to be a boss to a friend that you've been friends with since 4 years old. I think that might have been part of the problem. But she's going through a major physical challenge, and I heard it through another friend of mine. And this particular friend of mine has had real challenges with trust and love from her family dynamic and has pretty much isolated everybody that's loved her away from her, and almost in an unconscious way to prove to herself that she's not lovable. Have you ever met people like that? They push people away. Even though they're loved by those people, they want to prove that they almost want you to keep fighting for them. Something in them needs you to constantly prove that you love them. And I've done that for years and years and years, and the last, fallout was, it's enough already. When you finally come into the understanding that you're a beautiful child of God. I'm here. I'm going to be here. Nothing will change. So hearing that she's suffering in another state, and I know she's not surrounded by family because she's pushed everybody away, I was feeling that. It's just an amazing thing how 7 years it feels like there is no distance. How do I go in and rescue her? That's how I was feeling. So I came into his office and said, do you have a minute? I need to talk about this, because we can't ever bring people to the understanding of Christ consciousness in themselves. We can speak to it, and we can illustrate different things that happen in our own personal lives that help us discover, and we're always discovering. He might not be. He might have attained it. He doesn't have teenagers at home, though, so. They've kind of figured out their zen. He lives in the mountains. He's got one really great dog.
Right.
Like, nobody's really pushing up in his world. I mean, I guess we have the center, and there's always those things, but he sat down and he just sat across from me and we talked about it. And I had to let go of my attachment to want to help her feel safe through this, that this might be that moment where she, in quiet in this hospital, will feel God come in and share that she is lovable and that she needs to take better care of herself, and she needs to love herself enough to let the people back in that love her, But I was relating with it because I have lost my girlfriend, and I lost my girlfriend to cancer, and I lost my dog 2 weeks ago. And so I've also been in my own circumstantial depression, not a clinical depression, but a depression. The heart is sad.
It's real suffering.
It's real suffering. It's not something you can just distract yourself with a TV program or something. You just can't. It doesn't leave you, because when you've loved this deep, there's a process of letting go. And yesterday we put on a memorial for Dennis Drake, who's been in our choir for 30 years. And that's the choir he was witnessing, rehearsing on Thursday night. And I didn't get to make it Thursday night, but I was there yesterday. And we saw people that were in our choir at our old church in the late 70s and early 80s. I mean, and to see them all was like no time passed. The camaraderie and the love that's in this group of people.
Yeah. But what I want to say is in my early years, even though I wasn't in the ministry, it seemed to me that there's a bottom. I used to think that there's a bottom for everybody. In other words, there's a way of life if you're shutting yourself off from your divine calling. And everyone has a divine calling. We are called to find our way in life and find our way to the higher levels of consciousness in life. But, so you say, well, people are in denial of that. So many people, and they will deny it, and they'll become angry, and the things that have happened to them are justification for them becoming more isolated. And, but you say there's a bottom to that. At some point, the suffering becomes so great, or the difficulties and the challenges become so great, that they then just give up. And they reach out for something. May not just even use the word God, they just say, help me. But I'm incorrect about that. I mean, I went to work, I know of experiences in the Manhattan Bowery Project, where you have dropped out, destitute Bowery alcoholics who are almost have reached that place of there is no redemption for them on even a physical level. They try to help these people by trying to get them sober over 7 days, etc., and then send them out to a farm place where they could live and work and eat and carry on a life and stay away from the alcohol that was killing them. But they had a 1% survival rate. Most of them were back on the Bowery, drinking anything they can get their hands on to try to obliterate the pain in their experiences. There was no bottom for them They were eating garbage. They were eating things that were poisoned. They had frostbite. They were missing toes and fingers. They were going blind. They were in such pain that they had to be given, all kinds of drugs to take the place of the alcohol they've been using. So for some reason, a human being can become so absolutely in denial of going forward in life in some positive manner that they will die in their suffering. So the idea that there's a bottom, obviously some human beings don't have one. But for most of us, our bottom is fairly there. It's pretty obvious. You don't have to look very far to see that the world provides all kinds of opportunities to know that your human intellectual understanding of life cannot get you out of the suffering that you're looking upon. And the Buddha realized this too, that you can't figure your way out of that. And you may say, some people do and go on doing it, where is God in all this suffering? Why would God have this happen to this person? Why is this suffering so great in the life of this person?
Can you imagine being a kid growing up and whenever we came to him to complain about any job that we had, that he could throw that in our face, that he cleaned Bowery bums in New York? I mean, it's like there was no compassion for any hard job that we had.
But
It's like, just stop there.
I've got to be honest, you were in your early years a pain in the ass. Spirit or no spirit?
I've proven myself since then, though.
Yes, you have.
Yeah.
Come a long way. A surprisingly long way.
Yeah.
So, and therefore, when there is that opening in the mind, you have to be open to the possibility that there is something greater there awaiting us in our struggles in life. You have to be aware of that. And then, if you're open to it, conditions and circumstances will provide a teacher, a book, a situation where you can begin to find your way to this next level of awareness that Jesus is referring to as being in the world, yes, but not of it. In other words, you're still in the world, but the conditions and circumstances, the struggles, the conflicts, the fears, you see, they're not so imposing on your consciousness. You see them, they're there, but you are now operating from a more divine space, so that your joy and your peace are surpassing the understanding of the world. That's the way the scripture speaks about it. Your joy and your peace are not coming from conditions and circumstances meeting your desires, your demands. That's not happening. It's not going to happen in the world. No one's going to have that happen, no matter how much money you try to make or how popular you try to become or may even become. You will have suffering, and the only way to transcend it is what Buddha said. You have to see it. It derives from your desire to make the physical life be the only life, or make the physical life work to bring you peace of mind, happiness, joy, and inspiration. It doesn't happen that way. No matter how much money you amass, no matter how popular you become, you just talk to people that have become extremely popular, extremely rich. Some of them make it because they transcend that limitation anyway. But many of them will tell you, no, my life is it's a train wreck. And it's because there's only one way out, and that's into your own divine nature.
Myrtle Fillmore, who is the co-founder of Unity, words it really well in her book called How to Let God Help You. And the title of this chapter is Life is a School. Life is a school, The great schoolmaster knows just what problems we need to keep us alert and to bring out the wonderful qualities that the Father has measured out for us to come up to. That is our purpose in life, to succeed in bringing forth God's perfect idea of the perfect person. In the beginning, God created man in his own image and likeness, even as he created the little seed to bring forth of its kind. As lives the flower in the seed, so lives the Christ in me. The germ of God-likeness slumbers in us, and it should be our true aim in being to make manifest this perfect self or Christ of God in our lives. All of us, sooner or later, come to the place in our development where we are no longer satisfied to go on living the old life. Without the knowledge of our oneness with God, the source of our being, sometimes when we reach this point in our soul's progress, we do not at first know just what is taking place. We may become restless and dissatisfied. We may go through experiences which we do not understand. We may even be tempted to think that our good has gone from us. But just as surely as there is God, the one presence and one power, we shall find that all is well, and that we are but going from one room, as it were, into another, larger and lighter room. As we leave old circumstances, beliefs, habits, and desires behind, and seek to understand and to enter into and get the blessing out of the larger life which is ever opening to us, we are filled with a sense of peace, freedom, and assurance that all is well. We should then turn our attention within and devote ourselves to those thoughts and acts which make for poise, order, health, and success.
So, and you will get this from the masters down through the ages, to align yourself with the divine also helps to be with people of that character, the people that are pursuing the divine state of awareness, to become the emissaries of light, to be expressions of the God consciousness that the masters are speaking about. If you bring yourself into the company of people that are all involved in this journey, you are going to enhance your own receptivity to this spirit. And so that's what unity is all about. It's a community of people seeking to bring about that divine expression that is the presence of divine love. And so I sometimes put it this way. The scripture says we are made in the image and likeness of God. But it is a potential, just as she's speaking about the seed, or you speak about the oak tree that's in the acorn. It's not fully expressed. You're made in the image and likeness of God. It exists as your core nature in your soul to be a divine emissary being. But it has to be nurtured. And this is what spiritual practice is. It has to be fed spiritual food, spiritual experience. And it has to be nurtured this way. And the best way to nurture it is to bring together and be with people that are of the same consciousness, who are seeking the divine awareness for themselves. So we are divine in origin. No one can change that for anyone. Even the destitute Bowery alcoholics that I had worked with and cleaned and showered and it's the worst job anyone could ever have in creation. And it's in my book. And it's, when you see what I went through in this, when I get this book published, but it's the worst type of thing you can be involved. I mean, just imagine you're scrubbing. You've got a guy in a shower, and you're scrubbing down this Bowery alcoholic who's got lice all over him, missing toes. He's still inebriated from something he drank, probably Sterno or rubbing alcohol. And then he's all of a sudden he gets this feeling. He sees you going through this, and you've got a mask on, and you've got this long blouse, and you've got rubber gloves on. He launches off the chair and hugs you. and tells you how much he loves you. So these are the types of things that are types of awakening process. But in any case, so even they had within them the core spark, the divine essential potential. But it needs to be nurtured. That's what spiritual practice is about. And part of our spiritual practice should be coming together in this, divine unity experience and unity of all people of like minds. So we're going to do a meditation together and listen to our bowls, and then we're going to finish it up with an insight. So if you don't have a particular meditation technique, when you're listening to the bowls and we get to the period of silence, you may want to use this particular one that I use quite a bit. It's God is love. Love is life. I am God's life. I am. I am. Breathing in the I, breathing out the am. God is love. Love is life, all of life. I am God's life expressing. I am. I am. as we go forth from this meditation to those places we occupy in time and space, let us go forth in an awakened state to recognize our calling and our destiny to be emissaries of divine light, instruments of service and kindness, compassion and peace, ever bestowing peace in our own countenance. And for this opportunity in every moment, let us share in that gratitude. To this we say, Amen. Now, before we take the offering, I want to share with you a clip from something that looks like it took place before the COVID. Just a picture. So can we have that picture up here? Did we get a feedback? Oh, there it is. This is Fellowship Hall on Saturday at the reception that we had for Dennis Drake, that 30-year member of our congregation. And you can see that for everyone there, the thought of the pandemic and possibly even the year and a half or less that they spent in limitations and problems that came about as a result of the pandemic, none of that is brought into that fellowship hall. There was such a sharing, camaraderie, and a happiness to be together again.
So much hugging. So much hugging.
So much hugging, no masks.
It was just,
You know.
It was like the whole year didn't happen. Everybody was back, and the place was ablaze in laughter and connection, and you all are a part of that. And we want to remind you that that's what this community is about. That there's not just this core people that have been with us for over 30, 40 years.
Right.
That even if you're new here, you're invited into that. You know, we're going back into community. We're going to have that fellowship full again, and we're inviting you online to come and join us back in this community. We're about to rent a gazebo in Lyons. We're going to have a big barbecue in a couple weeks, so we're working on that. Once we get that set, we'll let you all know, and we're going to spend a Saturday together, and there's a skate park there and a big river. We can bring our dogs, so we're just going to really do more community fun things together, so we get out of this isolation and remember why we are part of a spiritual community, to make friends if you don't already have some. And if there's just you here, you come by yourself, and we'll make you welcome and make you understand why this center has had the doors open for this many years.
So we'll use this time of the COVID pandemic as a springboard. Out of all of that, I think it actually is going to be serving everyone worldwide in some way to bring everyone more into the reality of their divinity. That there is no just happenstance. We're just not born and carry on and try to figure things out. We're here by divine appointment to awaken. And I think that this pandemic was part of that, to give us the opportunity to see the limitations, the shutting down. Maybe some people got into meditation more. But in any case, now we're coming out of that, and we're going to be blossoming. Unity, for certain, in Boulder is going to be blossoming. We invite you to be part of that, to become part of an enlightened community.
We're doing the summer solstice next Sunday at 7 p.m. And we're going to be starting in the labyrinth in the garden and then work dancing outside of the area. So you're all welcome to that, all ages. It's really an experience to really say thank you to the Creator.
You don't have to register for that. You just show up and wear flowy clothes and comfortable shoes, because you will be on grass dancing outside.
So we will now take an offering for unity. Do we have anyone manning the baskets.
Farouk, can you take an offering? He just needs to get his shoes on real quick and then he'll do it.
Okay.
Yeah, would you mind helping him? There's baskets right at the back.
Right. So, again,
And we need ushers. We need some volunteers for this service. Huh? We just got 2 to do it, so you're good, Sandy. But yeah, we do need first service ushers that can greet people, and we have lots of areas you can volunteer. So now that we're out of the pandemic, we could use a little help around here. So if you'd like to serve, please see Heather after the service and give your name and number. And it can be a little thing or it can be a big thing.
so as we just come on down, and we still have lots of people watching on screen, and so we'll do this in this way. You can make a gift, a physical gift, to one of the baskets, or you don't necessarily need to. We still have dip jars in the lobby. If you want to dip your credit card, that's fine. Or you want to make another donation online, that's great. We have all these different ways that you people who are watching on screen can donate, and to support this ministry, which is so valuable now in bringing people into the reality of their divinity. So now we bring to mind that financial gift we'd like to make to Unity of Boulder. And let's bless it with this prayer. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. And so it is.
Spread